Alright everybody, we're currently here at Dreamhack. We have the mid-season brawl coming up, and I thought it would be a good chance to finally get an interview with Blumbi going. And we're not going to talk too much about mid-season brawl itself, maybe we're going to touch on it a bit later. But mostly I'm actually interested in you as a person. You have not been the coach for Fnatic for a little bit, but before we are heading into your job as a coach, let's talk a little bit about you. Just tell me a bit about yourself, like where did you grow up, how did you go into gaming, and just basically a short overview, how did you end up being Fnatic's coach?
Alright.
Don't steal the microphone, that's mine. Rule number one in interview, never give the microphone away.
Alright. So I grew up in Euskirchen, which is like a small city in Germany, and how I got into gaming is basically I don't know, I just enjoyed, the Warcraft series back then when Warcraft 3 came out and Warcraft 2 even, and I got into World of Warcraft for a bit, and then League of Legends came out, like the first big MOBA, and I was like super into it. Like I spammed the game. I just wanted to improve all the time, and I got pretty high rank. Like I went to Diamond 1 pretty fast, and also into Master. Like I realized that I'm actually a good player. And then when Heroes of the Storm came out, I was like, oh my god, it actually combines like the Warcraft universe, which I love, with like a MOBA game, which I'm actually good at. Like I'm gonna go pro in this game. And I sat down, like 1st of January 2015, I sat down and I spammed the game like 12 hours a day.
Okay, so how old are you now, and when exactly, at what age did you think, okay, this is actually something where I want to do a bit more than only play casual, but I want to be more competitive about it?
So I'm 24 now. I actually turned 25 very soon, and I don't know, it was actually just when Heroes came out that I thought I actually want to do something more out of gaming, where I feel like I'm good enough to actually make money with it. And it's also something where I wasn't sure what I want to do, like what job I want to have, because I tried to be like a programmer, like I studied like programming, but I didn't enjoy like sitting in the, in my job, I didn't enjoy sitting there and programming all day. And, instead I was like looking at guides for games and like writing guides myself. And I realized I enjoy like working for myself a lot more than working for someone. And that's how I got also into esports, because I just realized that's what I just love,
Okay, so with you starting after school, obviously, when you're talking about how you've been at university at the time, did you finish your degree? How did that whole process look like for you after, let's say, after school?
Now, unfortunately, I don't have a degree yet. Like I canceled for like getting into Heroes Esports, and I'm currently working on getting a degree. Like I'm looking to get into psychology studies this winter semester. Like this is something I really want to do. It also kind of aligns with the coaching like role as well, where I get more background knowledge actually. Like what is, like I know a lot of stuff about people, but I don't know like the terms or specific so Methoden, das halt
methods on how to a fundamental basis of how to like base it in psychology.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you say you want to like start with a degree, is that something where you feel once you get out of esports you want to go into that direction anyway, or is it something where you say I want to stay in esports in the coaching role no matter what, and I'm trying to just further that career by now also getting a degree in the same segment?
So what I realized is what makes esports so interesting for me is that I like working with people. Is actually what I realized. Like I'm not the guy who just sits in front of his PC all day. Like you might think I'm like, it's esports, you might think that's what I did all day. That's what I did all day, but you're in TeamSpeak with your teammates. Like you're actually interacting with your team all day, like 8 to 10 hours. So you're not like sitting there alone, That's the difference between like gaming nowadays and also back then. And yeah, I just wanna work with people, honestly. And esports obviously is a very good option for me, because I just like doing it. I have a lot of knowledge and I know what gamers need. Like I know their struggles. I know what a young gamer needs to know before like actually starting off in his career.
So before we go more into coaching in general, let's talk a little bit about also esports, and let's talk a bit about your family. What was that how was it like when you, for example, told your parents or just your family in general, listen, I'm actually going to stop going to university, and that was even before you had aspirations to become a coach, so you were just a gamer. did you get confronted with a typical way you just want to play a game all day, or did your parents look deeper into it? Like, how did that process look like for you?
So my parents didn't like that I played video games at school. They didn't like that my degrees, they went down. It wasn't that good, my grades, and I don't know. I just still kept playing, And when I was 18, my parents were like, "Yeah, you're 18 now. Like, do whatever you think." And then I played a lot. I got my own computer, and it was like they were skeptical always. But when I told them, actually, "Yo, mom, I'm not gonna go and write these exams right now. I'm gonna go to Katowice back then in 2016. I'm gonna have a tournament, and if we qualify, I go to Korea after." And first she was like, "Are you sure? I don't like it." And she was like really skeptical about it. And my dad was like, "Is the money even gonna come to your bank account? Like, is it even, what is this scammy stuff? I don't know if it's good." And I was like, "Don't worry, like, it's Blizzard Entertainment, like they're like one of the biggest companies, and like, don't worry about it. If they fuck up, it's gonna ruin their reputation overall, which they're not gonna do that." So I told my mom anyway that I'm gonna go to the Katowice event, and she said, "I don't like it," but then she said, "I'm gonna support you," and she actually rooted for me, and she was super happy that we qualified for Korea back then.
So do your parents by now actually watch you play? Did they follow your player career, and now as a coach, do you follow the team that you coach? And did their attitude towards gaming change over time, or are they still pretty skeptical about it?
I think it changed for sure. They understand that it's actually very similar to any competition, just like sports or anything else. Like, you gotta put in the work, and it's kind of the same thing. Like, essentially, it's just competition. Like, may it be running or I don't know, whatever. Like, it's competition, and they understand that by now. That it's not just you sitting around alone at home. It's like you having a team, like where you also have like internal conflicts coming up, like where you have to deal with like pressure within the team, like personalities like mashing or like not working out. And this is all the stuff that like it makes esports just like sports, That's my opinion. Like, I think it's a sports, and my parents have a very different view on it right now. Like, my mom is so cute. She's always like looking at the standings and being like, Fnatic doing so well this time or not doing so well. She actually knows which are the good teams. She knows some of the player names. Like, she loves, like, she knows the Alex stream, and like she actually, she actually is pretty knowledgeable about the scene, which is cute.
So does she sometimes give you advice or ask you, "Hey, what's wrong there? Last time maybe a player didn't look confident enough," and she immediately goes and says like, what are you going to do about it? I mean, does she put you to the task where she says, "Okay, it's your responsibility to take care of that now"? Because to me, that sounds like the German approach, that once you buy into something, you're like, "Okay, how do you make that better now? How do you solve that problem?"
I mean, she doesn't really recognize the deeper problems. Like, she understands when a team played well or played bad, and she understands that it can have various reasons. It can be like conflicts internally, or it can be play. But I think she cannot see if it was bad play or good play. I think that's hard. But she for sure sees when something is wrong, but she doesn't know why it's wrong. But she can, she can see that at least. And I don't know. My sisters and my dad, they don't watch that much. I think like my sisters watch now and then. And they watched, when I played, they watched like all the games, and it's also super cute that they watch.
How many sisters or how many siblings do you have, and how old are they?
I have two sisters. They're like 2 years older and 4 years older, so 26 and 28.
So were they any worried when you told them you're going to commit to gaming full time, or were they, because of their age, a little bit more receptive to the idea of you making that transition?
I mean, they were receptive all the time. At least my 26-year-old sister is like, she was just like, do what you want. Like, I'm super supportive. Like, and she's like in front of her like kommilitonen. Just her friends where she studies, like they're like, she's just like, my brother, he's like a esports guy, like he's a huge guy in Heroes of the Storm. And she's like, it's so cute. And like, she's just saying, he played in Team Liquid and now he's a Fnatic coach. And actually kind of decent amount of people know these orgs, these are like, those are like the biggest orgs in the West are like Fnatic and Liquid. So whoever knows esports knows these names. So they're like, oh, what, really? And like, it's super cute. And then my oldest sister, I think she was a bit more skeptical, but super supportive. Like, they never told me stop or don't do this. Like, nobody ever did that. In the end, when I had my decision, they said, go for it.
Okay, so before you became a coach, you were a player, and lead me a little bit through your gaming career, how that was like for you, and also when did you decide that it would be the right decision for you to stop being a player but actually transitioning into the coaching role instead?
So, I mean, as I said, I started off spamming the game. Then I got like 3 months later, I got into Alternate Fantasy, which is a very old roster you probably know. And I was super hyped the first time you casted our team. I was like, oh, wow, Khaldor casted us. And, that's how it started off. And then I got my first salary, which was pretty low in Alternate Fantasy back then. But I had this team with Darkmark that we built up together. From the start, I played with Darkmark because I knew him from League of Legends. He was like a challenger player, like almost got into LCS. I knew he is like really strong mechanically, and I knew that if I'm gonna like succeed with someone, it's gonna be with Darkmark because I just knew him and he's a good guy. So what was the question? How should I go through all the story because it's a long story?
I mean, you don't have to go into every single detail, but just like your pro gamer career a bit, and when you decided to make the transition into coach, like what was it like for you?
All right, let's do it and kind of quick then. I guess I got into my Insanity then, like the most longest standing roster, like the most known kind of roster that also built the Team Liquid after, which was with Hasu, Nurok, Splendor, Darkmark, and me. And I enjoyed the time within the team. It was like super nice, like rising up from an underdog position to Katowice, qualifying to Korea, and all the road. Most of you know it. But in the end, I realized, I'm now 24, and I realized that I could keep going with pro gaming, but it's something that I love to do. But more than loving to play, I love actually working with the people in esports. That's what I realized, and it doesn't necessarily have to be me being a player. Although I think I'm a skilled player, and I don't think that I don't think I need this 60-hour, 70-hour week kind of grind thing in my life where I have no space for anything else. Because honestly, I had no time for my family, for my friends. I put my career number one, and I think it kind of hurt me in a way that, it was good for me. I don't regret it, but I think I went a bit too far with that. And now I just enjoy, spending time with my friends and family more. And I can't just have the schedule of a pro gamer anymore. That's why I'm a coach, and I'm also, by the way, right now a part-time coach, so I can focus on my studies as well, and check which university I want to go to as well. And yeah, that's basically one of the, if I wanted to still go full-time in esports right now, I would still be a player. And it doesn't mean that I don't want to be full-time in esports one day, but right now, because I need to study or I want to study and have a degree, I'm part-time in esports, as a 20-hour a week coach.
So when you try to become a coach, I mean, obviously you landed the job with Fnatic now, but when we look at coaches across the board, in Heroes, it's really interesting because, let's be honest about it, a lot of the coaches in Heroes are glorified water boys. You have a couple of coaches are very impactful, and let's say Korthenluck, for example, Heroes Hearth has been talking a lot about how he had a huge impact. What's the important part that really set you ahead of the rest, where Fnatic said, okay, this is actually someone that A, we want to work with, and B, that we feel brings something to the table outside of just being a manager at an event and bringing the guys food and drinks?
So I think a huge thing for me in my development as a coach was I didn't start off in Fnatic as a coach. And that's the biggest thing. I know that it needs experience to be good at something. And that's why I started off I coach Diamond Skin right now. And I just coached them, got my experience. Then I went over, coached Tricked. And then I went over and coached, I had tryouts for some other teams. I can't name all of them, but in the end, I just got thrown into so many situations with various teams that I just knew how to handle the situations and knew the personalities. And then when I felt ready, I was actually almost to sign with the Trick team. And then Fnatic came knocking on the door at the perfect timing, being I know half a year ago we said we don't want to coach, but right now it might look different. Are you signed yet? Or we would like to try you out.
So why exactly did they approach you? What was, when they talked to you, what was it exactly that they wanted from you? Are you more so there to motivate the players and to solve internal problems that might exist between players? Are you someone that looks very more on the strategic side? What exactly is your role as a coach in that setup?
So obviously, with having Quacknix on the roster, you have like one of the greatest strategical minds together with Benny. So me going into that, I of course give my input, but I'm not. I'm not the guy making the main strategic planning. I'm not the Koth and Luck, like actually teaching the guys how to play the game. I was more so the guy that had to like handle the situation, the personalities, and motivate the players. And that's a huge thing, to lead them in the right direction, not like getting too down from the frustration, not doing bad decisions out of frustration. This is the main focus for me, to like keep the players on track, not getting too down from losing, because I know how it feels myself, and that is also exactly the job I wanted. Like, I think I'm a good strategical coach. I think I have good knowledge, but what I said before, I enjoy working with people even more than doing the strategical part, which means it's the perfect job for me, because I love to work with people and make them understand that they have to just have a kind of minimum amount of respect and tolerance towards each other for a team to work. And I think it's just an issue that a lot of players have. As soon as you go up, you have like success, you're not confident anymore. You get to the point where you look down on others. And if you have a team of 5 people looking down on each other, the blaming starts. Look at this guy, look at that guy. You can see it already when people talk about other teams' players, like, oh, this guy is so bad. Eventually it's going to happen in your own team when you talk like that, because it's just a general mindset where you like to look down on others, and it will eventually also happen in your own team. It's unavoidable. Thank you.
So let's talk a bit about how social media influences that as well, because we all know that when you look at Twitter, when you look at Facebook, you look at Reddit, you have like a lot of communities that are extremely either very, very harsh on players, but you also have hardcore supporters that no matter what you do, they will always hype you up. Is that a big problem for players in general? Is it more of a problem for newer, older players? Like, how much of an impact does that have on a team, on an individual level?
For inexperienced players, it's a huge struggle, because whenever they get hyped, they get too hyped, and in either direction it's bad, because it's good to be confident, but it's not good to go like to push yourself too far up, because it will also mean you fall down twice as hard. So you have to be able to stay neutral in these situations where you feel like, this is so good or this is so bad. No, you just have to keep the mindset that you had at the start. Like, the best example is Last Hope that we now get for Fnatic. Like, he's a guy that he just grinds his way up. Like, he's just #1 Hero League. He just grinds. He has a schedule every day. He stands up at this time. He has this block. He goes to bed at this time. He has a perfect schedule. And then, I had a meeting with him where I talked with him about what, and he was like, oh, what am I going to do now? I'm Fnatic. And I'm like, do the same. Like, do the same. Don't change. Like, I know a lot of people are going to approach you and I'll be like, oh, you're in Fnatic. A lot of people are going to be like, like, can I talk to you? Or a lot of people are going to hate on you, or you think you have pressure to perform in Hero League. No, like, forget about all of this. Like, essentially, you got here just because of what you did, so do the same still. And that's what a lot of players fail to do. Whenever they have success, they don't do the same. Like, they think they have to act differently.
So outside of the social media advice, if there is a player out there, for example, that has the ambition to enter the pro scene, to become competitive, what exactly would you recommend? Because every time we approach a new roster apocalypse or roster changes in general, the period starts, a lot of people are thinking, how do I actually get noticed by a pro team? How do I apply? What do I have to do to get on a level where I can play with them? So if you would have to give advice to a player that hasn't been noticed yet and wants to improve, what would your advice be?
So I think just in Hero League, try to only focus on yourself. That's the huge thing, I think, that makes a pro team pick you up. When you're not talking in chat about others, like just where you can see there is a guy, he's not writing in chat at all, or if he's writing, he's constructive, and he's only focusing on himself, improving on himself. And then it's just the grind, honestly. It's just a grind. Like, you can see it, like, you can see Zelia, Poil, now Last Hope, even like Sonic the Beast, like all these players, the one thing they have in common, like coming up into HGC at a later stage, kinda, they just grind, they grind the shit out of this game. That's just how it is. They just grind, and they don't do it in a way that they grind and are like super frustrated. They actually want it. And that's the difference. When you are like grinding Hero League but you don't want it, you will start complaining. But when you grind Hero League and you actually want it, you will only focus on yourself. It doesn't matter when your stitches hooks like backwards, like because you only focus on yourself, right? It doesn't matter for a Last Hope what his teammate does, because he died once, and that's the thing that matters. Like he's like to me like, I died once in this Hero League game. I know I should die 0 times. It's so bad. Like he doesn't care if he's 4 levels behind. He can still play it the best way possible. And that's the attitude you have to have. Just do the best. Like try to get the best possible player you can be. And this is the way you will get picked up. And if not, if after like 2-3 months you're not good enough, or like after half a year, I don't know how much time it takes for you, but you know, I guess either you're not good enough, or you got unlucky and have to keep trying, or you make your own team in open division. You have a decent chance to get in HCC as well. But I think you have a solid chance if you really have the correct attitude and schedule to just get noticed.
What is the correct attitude at that? Because you talk about attitude, and I think, as you say, like grinding, concentrating on yourself, trying to improve your mechanics as a player, the decision making is highly important. But as you said before, there's a lot of conflicts, or there can be a lot of conflicts within a team. And what are teams, when you're looking at a new player, you're Fnatic, you know you need one more player in your lineup and you try out different ones. What are you looking for in terms of attitude and in terms of social skills when you're trying these people out?
So for me, it's like I look at how they talk actually, in a way like, first of all, what is really important is how is their English, how is their communication. That's the #1 thing, because in this game you need to communicate a ton to understand what you want to do. Then it's attitude-wise, it's mostly, I don't want to like talk about like names here, but there are players that I've seen in tryouts that like were kind of very overconfident. And that's not even a good thing. Like in tryouts, it's fine for you to be nervous. It's of course not good. Like you should try to be just, you know, yourself. But the issue is that some people think like, oh, they want me to be confident. So, okay, let's try to be confident now. And then they try to make like a lot of like moves to prove themselves. Like, you know, try to make some weird plays on lane, like kill your opponent on lane or something like that. But that's not what we're looking for. Like I think most teams just want a player who plays safe, communicates well, and understands the game on a decent level. And as soon as any toxic behavior comes in, it's like a pretty bad sign, because even a toxic player is usually smart enough to hide it at the start. You know what I mean? So if you are at the start already toxic, it's pretty obvious that you will get even more toxic, or you just have 0 social skills, which is also a bad thing, you know. But yeah, attitude-wise, it's just show good team kind of team spirit, that you just talk a lot, and yeah, that's it.
So when you're looking at the team that you have coming into the new split now in phase 2 of the year, you already talked a bit about Last Hope. You obviously now also get Shrimpy back into the team. Are there any things that for you as a coach are right now something where you say, okay, this is something that I want to focus on, this is something that I want to prioritize in my work to make sure that the team succeeds?
So to me, it's the biggest thing to me with the new roster is to work on is that if we fall down, if it doesn't go as we want, that we stay on the track. Because I feel like Quacknix was the one absorbing most of the, whenever it fails, Quack is the one who keeps talking. Quack is the one, you know, who keeps going. And, you know, the others might get more silent. It's a thing where I don't think Shrimpy has exactly that that discipline that Quack has in that sense. Like I think Shrimpy can be a good leader when it comes to strategical part, but like mindset-wise, I think like I think Breeze can be a good leader mindset-wise. I think he keeps his, you know, he keeps being calm, looking for engages, being vocal, whatever happens, and I'm hoping that we just have enough players with a mindset to reset whenever it doesn't go well, because I think you can see it in Dick kind of. Of course, I'm gambling here, I don't know, but they had really good success throughout the whole like last phase, and then they don't know what it means to fall. They don't know what it means to not perform. And then when it happens and you don't have a player who has the right mentality, like you're all gonna fall, because there's no one picking you up. There's no one like talking each other up and scrims being like, oh yeah, good job. Like these are the small things that make a team atmosphere stay healthy. These are the small things that make you in the long term succeed as a team, because in the short term it's easy, but in the long term that's what I am looking for in the new roster. Short term, I have no doubt that they are mechanically a super strong team, the new roster, by the way. Just whenever the time comes that they're not gonna like match the result that they think they deserve, then it's just a matter of having like 2-3 players who know how to stay in a healthy mindset. That's what I'm looking to coach mostly, like next split.
So how is the atmosphere between coaches? Because especially here, when we are looking at an offline tournament, normally what happens is the coaches, they are with the players during the draft. You talk them through, and then the game starts, and everybody clears the area. So most of the time, you guys are actually sitting next to each other, watching the game. Is there communication happening? Is there outside of the game? Is there a friendly atmosphere? Do you maybe like even exchange advice when someone has a problem within the team and asks the other, hey, did you ever encounter that? How did you deal with it? Or does that currently not really happen a lot?
I haven't had that many talks yet with the other coaches. I've talked to Kala a bit, but not really too much, to be honest. Like, I was just hanging out mostly with my team, like making sure my boys feel comfortable. And like I really enjoy Kala though as a person. I think he's a really nice guy. I don't know about the other coaches yet, but I think it's a thing we should probably do more, and I hope we get to do more, like getting to exchange as coaches. Like, for example, Kala told me, which I found like really nice, and it was like really, it helped me as well a bit, where he said, like, you know, I had a kind of a hype talk before our match against Tempo Storm, and I think you heard it on stream as well. You were like, oh, loud stuff coming from Fnatic, and because I was like, my boys are fucking sleeping right now. This can't be true. Like, we went 1-1 against the one. They are so down. I need to fucking shout now. So I went ham. I was like, in a sense, like, wake the fuck up, and like, not in that, like, not aggressively, but I was like basically saying, you know, I saw the enemy team upstairs in the backstage. They were like shaking with their hands and legs a bit. I could see they're fucking nervous. They're fucking scared. I was getting really loud. Like, they're fucking scared of you because they know you're the better team. And then, you know, they were like really hyped going into the match, and we 2-0 Tempo. And I'm not saying that's on me. I don't think so. I'm just part of the puzzle. That's what I always say. I'm part of the puzzle. But I think that's what my boys need sometimes, like this, bam.
How important is it for you as a coach now that you have the experience as a pro player? Is that something that you feel you need? Because, first of all, you have a bit of first-hand experience, but also from the perspective of respect from the players? Or do you think that without the experience of being a professional player in the past, you can still be a good coach and be at that level? How much of an impact do you feel that has?
Wow, that's a difficult question. I think you can be a good coach without an esports career before, but I think you should have some experience with something you were really passionate about, and you know the struggles that come along, like working with a team that is very passionate, and like where people have different ideas or different minds. Like, I think it's for sure also helpful when you have experience in competition. It can be any sports. For example, our coach Zeus was like in Liquid back then. Like, Zeus was coaching us. He was a baseball coach, I don't know what exactly, but he had coaching experience in sports, and you could actually really feel that. Like, he had this kind of like confident voice where you're like, all right, like he was getting you back in track when you were like falling, or when you were too hyped. He was like, you know, stay humble, stay in the tracks. And like, I think that helps for sure, having some kind of competitive background, but it doesn't have to be esports, in my opinion.
Okay, one last question for you, just a bit about your future. Let's say 5 years from now, Heroes isn't really the game where you can do coaching anymore. Would you still want to stay in esports, transition to another game, and go there as a coach, actually learn the game and then try to coach in a different game? Especially with, as you said, you want to get a degree in psychology, you want to understand that side a little bit more and the basics about it. Or is it something where you say, my career ends with Heroes, and after that I am going to look for a job outside of that niche?
I don't think it ends with Heroes necessarily. I think I'm ready whatever comes. You know, I'm just open whatever, you know, because my base on that's important for me is working with people, and that could be anything in life. So for me, it's like it might be esports, it might be sports, it might be anything. But for me, it's like I enjoy a lot of things. Like I enjoy esports. Of course, is one of my top tier, like what I enjoy. So it might be esports in 5 years, and I wouldn't be sad about it. So I could see me in esports still in 5 years, even if it's not Heroes.
Right. Awesome. Thank you very much for the interview. It was a pleasure.